What is up, beautiful people? This is your girl, Nicole Denise, and we are back again with another video. How y'all doing? Comment below and tell me how you doing in the comment section because I really want to know. So today's video is very important to me and something I'm holding really close to the chest and near and dear to me because it is specifically talking about insomnia and my opinion and my take on why Black women can't sleep. So before we dive into this video, I want you guys to go ahead and like, comment, subscribe to this video. Like the video before it even starts and get ready to comment because I need your amens, your yeses, your stories, your rebuttals, your comments in the comment section. So get ready to comment because again, this is a very interesting topic for me because it is something that I'm directly dealing with like right now in my life. As we speak, I am shooting this video in the evening time, specifically because, not that tonight is an insomnia night, but because there are anxieties around when night falls for me nowadays. So I really want to talk about this and kind of share with you the messaging that I got from God about the subject. And more specifically, not just insomnia, but inspired insomnia. So if you want to know more about that, what I mean by that, stay tuned to this video. So for starters, I kind of want to give you like a little backstory about me, insomnia, dealing with insomnia, and just kind of how it has come to play a certain role in my life. So for starters, I have not always been somebody that deals with insomnia. As a matter of fact, I can recall there being times in my life where I was just like, and I sleep good at night. That was kind of like my rebuttal to everything. Like, as long as I ain't doing that and I can look myself in the mirror and I can sleep good at night, like my life is good. It was kind of very flippant to a certain extent, depending on who I was talking to, or also just with gratitude as well. Like I was happy, like at the end of the night, regardless of what's going on, I can go to sleep and, try again the next day. So, insomnia, I'm trying to choose my words, but I'm just going to go ahead and say it. It started plaguing my life because that's the word that's coming to me. It started plaguing my life when I became the caretaker for my mother. And that was what year we're in. And y'all got to bear with me because even my therapist told me that grief and trauma, a grief response and a trauma response when something traumatic happens in your life, it can cause memory loss. So there are certain things that I just can't recall all the time, but I'm going to try to walk this timeline back to when it started. So I moved back to Georgia. I was living in Palm Beach and I moved to Georgia after a bout of burnout after the pandemic, after I closed my business. This was February 2020 when I closed my business. The pandemic kicked my behind. I had COVID twice. And I moved to Georgia in 2021. And I remember my mom asked me, she was like, well, what are your plans when you come here? What do you want to do? I was like, to be honest with you, I just want to rest. And she said, come on, baby. I remember that. She said, come on, baby. And I came there, and I kid you not, I slept for 2 months. It might have been 3 months. But from what I can recall, I slept for 2 months. I did the bare minimum. I would wake up, I would eat, I would take showers, and I would go back to sleep. I was that burnt out. I was that exhausted by life. And I slept. And it's almost interesting when I think about it now because it seems like it was a precursor to what life was about to become. So I slept, I got my strength back, I started to feel more like myself, after the burnout, after having the vid twice, and just life in general, trying to figure out life, how just being isolated. I had literally started therapy, and so 2021 is when I moved back to Georgia. 2022, well, the end of 2021, going into 2022, my mom's health really started to decline. And I was taking her to hospital visits. I was taking her to the ER, the information that I could find, because it was like pulling teeth, because you know parents, especially black parents, who try to hide things from you, don't want you to worry, blah, 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 blah. So it was the emotions of that. It was the emotions of me being there in Georgia and me having to update my sisters on what the goings on were as far as what my mother's health was. And as her health declined, she started getting fluid in her lungs, or had fluid in her lungs, so she had to have an oxygen machine. And the way the house was set up is that my room was right by her room, so I noticed that I began to, because not that I'm a heavy sleeper, but I'm a sound sleeper normally. And when she got that oxygen tank and it had to run all night, and I found myself like listening out for her breathing and stuff like that, just like you would do a baby, but just like she's my mom, she's a loved one, and I wanted to make sure she was breathing. And ever since that breathing machine came into the house, it's just like my sleeping patterns changed. And at the same time as my sleeping patterns began to change, I was also dealing with more acute awareness of what was going on in my gut. Like specifically, I was having just more problems with my gut, my digestion, aches, pains. It would bloat. Like my stomach was so big, like it would bloat even if I didn't eat. It was a whole bunch. So it was me being my mom's caretaker. As her health declined, we started getting nurses into the house all the time. It was just a lot. It was a lot. So I had to manage a lot, and then I had to, I was her driver because she couldn't drive after a certain time. And to see my mom go from this independent woman who was just on the go in the wind, that was always our kind of like running joke. My mom, she was a social butterfly, so she was outside. Had her friends. She was just always just in the wind. But to see her to go from that to just having to be in the house, and the only places she's going is to doctor's appointments, it was very sad to watch. It was sad to watch. And then, damn, this is going to be a hard video to do, but I'm going to do it anyway. It was sad to watch, but I'm telling this backstory because this is when I first noticed that my sleeping patterns were changing, and there were times where I just could not go to sleep fully, So I didn't realize what I was experiencing was actually insomnia, because again, I have never dealt with insomnia, so I didn't know what name to give it. But it was a combination of like GERD symptoms. I later on got an upper endoscopy and found out that I had like a hiatal hernia and I have fibroids. Like if you go watch some of my other videos, like those are more recent diagnoses, but it gave meaning to what was really happening. But all I know at the time was I couldn't sleep and I was very anxious. I was very anxious about my mom's health. I was anxious about her breathing. And then I was anxious about my gut. And then I became very anxious about why I couldn't sleep and like why I wasn't able to just fall asleep like I normally would. So that is my backstory on insomnia. So fast forward, my mom passes away, and she passed away in October of 2022, and we didn't have her funeral until November of 2022, the following month. Getting all those things together, being the one that closed out all of her affairs. I have some vlogs on my other channel of like kind of the process that I went through. And it was just a lot. It was a lot. It was a lot. It was a lot. It's things that people don't teach you. Especially like in the Black community, we don't know about people's final wishes, all their paperwork. Papers need to be in order. The debts that need to be paid, the final, even down to like cremation. My mom wanted to be cremated, and going through that with a funeral home. Like it was a lot. It was a lot. It was a lot. And because my mom handled all that for my father when he passed away, it was like, it was now resting on the shoulders of the oldest her oldest child. Now, of course, you know, I got lots of help from family, especially my aunts and my uncles and my sisters. Like, we all joined together, but because I was there in the house with my mom, like closing out and clearing out her house and coordinating people to come and pick up things, and like that all kind of like rested on me. So I couldn't sleep. I couldn't sleep. It was so funny because this is around the time where TikTok came in my life, and I started going on TikTok lives and watching TikTok lives, and I would just find myself up at all wee hours of the night, early morning, just on TikTok live, watching people and coping. I realized that it was a coping mechanism. I was just reading some old journals today, because when I had insomnia, I would journal. You know, I would just write. I would try to empty my head of the thoughts that I needed to get out, because I thought that maybe that was the issue of why I couldn't sleep. And part of it was, but part of it was just grief. This was a different strand of grief. This is not one that I had been through before, or that I remembered going through when I lost my father, or even my grandmother. We lost my grandmother during the pandemic. So, well, the early pandemic. So, it was just different. And insomnia was just one of those things that kind of just took me by surprise. So fast forward to now, present day, and 2-3 weeks ago, last month, like I'm in Florida now. Like I'm almost a year. Dang, it's been a year. So it's been a year since my mom passed away. I celebrated that memorial, or that anniversary of that day. And we're getting ready to go into another holiday season. And this holiday season, since October of this year, it has been difficult. It has been difficult for me. Like, emotionally, I've been feeling it. Even physically, I've been feeling it. Like, I've been going through it with my gut. I've been going through it emotionally and mentally. And insomnia has returned, you know? So, you know, and it's not all the time, and it's not every night, but anytime that I feel super anxious about anything that I have to do the following day, or my gut is on one, 9 times out of 10, I'm not going to sleep in the nighttime. And it's just something about the nighttime that kind of brought on these like terrors, because I was just, again, listening out for my mom. And then even when she passed, like, and I tried to like stay in Georgia, like at nighttime, just being in the house by myself. And then during the wintertime in Georgia, it's just cold and it's just dark and it's wet. It's just, I hope this video is making sense for somebody, because I don't want it just to be me pouring out my soul. And maybe that's just what it is, because I have notes of everything, y'all. I literally have notes. I have all these things. But maybe what it is that somebody just needs to hear my story and know that they're not alone. And maybe there needs to be a part 2. So I'm not going to force myself to do and be anything other than what is happening right now and who is present right now. So, yeah. So now I find myself in this space of, oh shit, I can't sleep. And again, it's not every night. Some nights are better than others. I notice that when I'm well adjusted, like I have a good adjustment from my chiropractor, and it's been a good week for me emotionally, as far as like journaling my feelings, doing my grounding techniques, checking in with my therapist. Like, I find that those are the nights that I sleep better. But then also, too, I just sometimes feel like some of the triggers that I found, we'll call them that. Some of my triggers that trigger insomnia is, one, if I have something the following day that brings me anxiety, and usually what it's been is doctor's appointments bring me anxiety. Or even certain work with certain clients give me anxiety. And if I know that, well, no, let me change that. What the anxiety is, what brings anxiety is like looming deadlines. So deadlines and having to go to doctor's appointments give me anxiety, you know. And if that is on my mind and I haven't journaled it, or I haven't said it out loud to myself, or I'm just letting it fly under the radar for the full day. By the time when it's time for me to go to sleep, that's when all the noise comes up and I am no longer able to like go to sleep. Then you add on top of that GERD, heartburn, my gut doing flip-flops, my sinuses, my allergies because it's cold outside. Like, it just be a whole bunch of drama. Like, I think what's kind of like not agitating me, but what's kind of making me skeptical about how this video is going is because it kind of irritates me that I have to talk about this. But I've even journaled that lately, that Nicole, it don't matter how many times you tell your story, you got to keep telling your story because your story is important and you are here. I am here, so my story is important. And so just remember that your story is important. Tell your story. It doesn't matter how many times you said it. Share your story. Because I want people to know that they're not the only ones. And so I've been dealing with insomnia for a couple months now. I'll say like on and off, you know, sporadically. And as of late, it's become more frequent, but it's still not like every other night or anything like that. It may be like once a week or once every 2 weeks or twice every 2 years, you know what I'm saying? So it's something like that. And I haven't been able to find any like definite triggers, because even if it's like a lot going on in my mind, sometimes I still sleep peacefully. And then there seems like, that's what I was telling my therapist, it'll be times where I'm having like a great day, and then when it comes to night, I'm now up and can't sleep, and now I'm worried, and now I'm anxious, and now I'm like, oh my God, I'm dreading being up, because then if I'm up, then I'm going to sleep in the day, and then it just seems like my whole life is topsy-turvy. So enters God. Like, God always comes through for your girl with the word, with the journal entry, with just the peace of mind, because I've asked for it. Like, I just need peace on this subject, God. I need peace on this subject of my gut, and I need peace on this subject of my insomnia. And he came through. One night he came through. One morning, I just decided to look at it differently. I was like, you know what? If I'm up, then I'm up for a reason. I just put it like that. Maybe it's a reason I'm up. Because I know there are times like in my past where, and not even in my past, there are times in my life as a person who has been a lifelong journaler, there are times when I'm just up. I just wake up out my sleep at 2 o'clock in the morning, 3 o'clock in the morning, 4 o'clock in the morning. And I just need to write. So I always keep a journal by my bed. I keep a pen by my bed, and I just write. So maybe this is just one of those times. So maybe because I can't sleep, there's something that I need to hear. There's something that needs to be downloaded. There's something that God is trying to tell me. There's something that my own subconscious is trying to tell me. Maybe it's quiet time, the only time that I can hear my own thoughts. So maybe this is the time. Maybe it is a purpose. It is a reason. And so ever since I looked at it that way, the words have been coming. So one night I opened my phone because I didn't have my notebook next to me. Or that morning I opened my phone and I just wrote down the words that came to me: inspired insomnia. Insomnia is a call to rest. Your mind in particular. That's what's in parentheses. Your mind in particular. So if you've been following me, I've been reading this book, Rest is Resistance by Trisha Hersey. And it has really been helping me recalibrate and relearn what rest really is and why rest is so important, especially to Black people. And how our ancestors, all they wanted was rest, you know, especially if you're the ancestors, especially if you're the descendants of enslaved Black people, which I am. Your ancestors dreamed of rest. They didn't dream of work and labor and grinding and hustling. They wanted rest. Because could you imagine having to work every day of the week with no rest and no pay off against your will, to create and to make a nation that is not your own great? Could you imagine that? Like, if you just put yourself in those people's shoes, like, could you imagine? And when I really decided to like go there in my mind, I'm like, yeah, so why am I grinding? It is the prayers, the answered prayers of my ancestors for me to rest. And even in this book, it teaches how rest is just not a monolith. Because some people feel like if you're resting, that means you're lazy. Or if you're resting, that means that you're wasting your life. Or if you're resting, that means you ain't making money. That's not true at all. There are more than one way to skin a cat. There's more than one way to live. There's more than one way to exist and make money and to survive and to thrive. And it's not just like the only options are you're resting or you're grinding. There's so much in between. There's a full spectrum of how you could live and conduct your life and exist in this world. And a lot of people haven't had the space, especially Black people, to consider other ways because we so damn exhausted and we tired. You get what I'm saying? So this book has put rest into perspective. And so for me, as I'm learning these things, internalizing these things, journaling on these things, contemplating these new ideas about rest, it just only feels fitting that insomnia decides to raise back up in my life, you know? And I'm also proud of myself because of how I was able to look at insomnia differently this time as an inspired pursuit instead of just something that is just a pest or something that brings me anxiety because I'm just like, oh my God, I gotta get up, or, oh, why am I awake and everybody's asleep? You know, I realize I have a lot to be grateful for. First of all, I'm grateful that I don't have a schedule like most people like me, my age in America do, where you're assigned to a time clock and you got to be a certain place at 8 o'clock, 9 o'clock in the morning, 5 o'clock in the morning. I don't clock in. I am grateful for that. And I see the privilege and I am grateful for the privilege of that. I don't have to clock in. So for me, when I sleep is when I sleep. When I rest is when I rest. And those are some of the things that I was putting in perspective as I was writing down this list during this bout of insomnia. So when I wrote that insomnia is a call to rest, your mind in particular, a lot of times many of us lay down at the end of the night and we sleep, but we don't rest. And sleep and rest is two different things. So our bodies are usually exhausted, so our bodies just go to sleep. But our minds are still racing, which is why so many people can have a full night, 8 hours of sleep or whatever they recommend for sleep and wake up exhausted. You ever notice that? It's because your mind never rested. And that's the problem. And insomnia for me, if I'm having insomnia one particular night, it's because there is a lot going on in my mind that needs to be dumped out. The next thing that I kind of wrote was insomnia reminds me that I create my own systems and I am not a slave to world systems. I'm in this world but not of this world. That's another thing. I don't have to march according to the beat of a clock in God. I don't have to clock in anywhere. I was just telling my friend the other day, we were having a conversation. I was telling her, I said, I know how to materialize money out of thin air when I need it, however I need it, however much I need. I've been an entrepreneur for 10 years and literally you're an alchemist. You're a magician. You know how to take the intangible and make it tangible. That is the beauty of understanding how powerful your mind is. And then when you put your mind to something and you can make it materialize. I know how to do that. I know how to do that kind of magic, you know? I know how to work that kind of faith, whatever term you want to put on it. I know how to put faith plus works and make it something. Yes, I've done that. So, and I am grateful to be able to do that and trust myself with that so that I don't have to concern and worry myself about the systems of this world. Because the systems of this world, if I'm gonna be completely honest with myself, I've always been an outlier. I've always been a rebel. I've always been countercultural. I've always walked to the beat of my own drum. I've always done my own thing. So for me, I'm noticing, especially as I get older and I'm more honest with myself about things, and not even things, when I'm more honest with myself about myself and my actual desires, the anxiety comes, the insomnia comes, And the revved up gut issues come when I'm trying to force myself into societal boxes, when I'm trying to make myself fit, when I'm trying to say the right things, play the games, you know, do all the things. People are like, oh, you know, in order to do this, to get rich, you got to do X, Y, Z. In order to have a man, you got to do X, Y, Z. In order to da 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 da. Anytime I find myself in those conversations and I'm actually either contemplating or actively trying to fit into the societal prescriptions or subscriptions or whatever, that's when I have anxiety. Because the thing is, Nicole, like I just told you, I know how to make the intangible, the things that don't make sense, the things that people ain't never seen before. I know how to make it something. I know my power. I know the God that lives in me. Because that's what God did. God, the Bible, if you read the Bible, in the beginning, you read the Bible, it says that the Spirit of God hovered over nothingness. And then the Spirit of God spoke and said, let there be light. And then there was light. That's taking the intangible. There was nothing. And God spoke and it was something. And in the same likeness and power that God is, so are we. We were created in that same image, in that same likeness. So I understand that power. So anytime I'm trying to force myself to be like the rest of the human robots, that's when I have anxiety. That's when I have insomnia. Rest will come when the message is downloaded and received, period. Every time I'm up and I have insomnia, and instead of like moping around like, oh my God, I can't sleep, oh, I need to go to sleep, or why am I up, this and that, instead of doing that mindless stuff that don't lead nowhere except you having a freaking panic attack, Nicole, instead of doing that, and I say, okay, I'm up, I grab my journal, I'm like, what we talking about, God? And then my hands just go. The message comes, or I turn on something and whatever I turn on TV, it happens to be what I need to hear, and it's the message. So, and then once the message is downloaded and once the message is received, miraculously, I go to sleep with no problem. So I'm starting to see insomnia and these bouts of insomnia, especially as of late, for what they are. God is getting downloads to me. By any means necessary. And if that means I'm interrupting your sleeping patterns, then okay. All right, God, we cool. I hear you. When and how to rest is a created illusion. Again, then I started thinking about night owls versus early risers. People are just different. I think about people that work the night shift versus people that work in the daytime. So is somebody right or who's wrong? Or, you know, in that equation, all this shit is basically what I'm saying is a created illusion. So whether I'm up all night and sleep all day, or sleep all day and up all night, or whether I'm up all day and sleep all night, it doesn't matter. I get to choose. We get to choose how we do this thing. And we usually get to choose it based off, hopefully, if you're fortunate enough and privileged enough, you can choose what actually works best for you. Because some people thrive in the daytime, some people thrive at the nighttime. And so me remembering that all this shit is just made up. And then also, too, it can change. Because sometimes I be on my night owl shit. And the other times, I'm an early riser, morning person. It just depends on what season I'm in. That's another thing you have to remember. Like, you are like the plants. You are like the planet. You have the same energy. Your seasons change. You're not always on the same stuff. Everything that you've always done is not going to always work. You might have to implement some new things. You might have to do something different because you're evolving. You're growing. You're a living being. Insomnia is not the end of the world. It's a call to end the created world illusion that is keeping you up. Y'all hear that? God be spitting. I don't care what nobody's saying. You don't love God? What's wrong with you? Come on, Mary. Or was that just Erica? That might have just been Erica Campbell. I'm going to read that again for emphasis. Insomnia is not the end of the world. it's a call to end the created world, the illusion that is keeping you up. What is racing in your mind? What have you considered real that ain't really real? What is a figment of your imagination that's keeping you up? And that's another thing that scriptures that God led me to about casting down imaginations and anything that exalts itself up against the knowledge of God. There are some things that you just know that you know that you know. That is knowledge that God has specifically given you. And anything that try to exalt itself above that, like somebody time clock or the pressures of the world or the grind culture, or somebody telling you you weak if you sleep, or sleep is for the weak and you gotta keep going and you'll sleep when you dead, you damn skipper you will. But you can also sleep while you're alive. You can also rest while you're here. Life don't have to be that hard. I don't care what they force fed us. That's not the purpose of life. I don't think God just made us to put us here to fuck with us. I don't believe that. I don't believe any doctrine that says that. I don't care who says it across the pulpit. I don't believe that the God that I talk to, who's informing me to write these kind of things right here, who made this girl right here, who made her, who created her, he not up here just trying to fuck around and just like, let me do this shit to piss Nicole off, make her feel anxious and have panic attacks. That's just not the God I serve. I don't serve the fire and brimstone God, the God that's just pouring out wrath for the hell of it. I just don't. It sounds like a tyrant. I don't serve the tyrant God. So, with that being said, I'm going to leave this last little note about inspired insomnia. And I want to do a closing message of why I just think that Black women aren't sleeping the best nowadays. This was it. This was an instruction for how to deal with insomnia. Reframe and change your mind. Renew your mind about being awake. And that's what I did. And that's what changed the game for me. And not only changed the game for me, once I renewed my mind about insomnia and being awake, and realizing that it was a time for me to hear from God when the world is sleeping, or when it's quiet, or when my mind is finally at ease. It made me come to grips with just how much of this shit that we live is a created illusion. And if it's created, and Jesus, when he walked the earth, said that greater things we shall do, I could just create some new shit for myself. If I ain't feeling this, I could just create something else. And Nicole Denise, if she ain't nothing else, she's the queen of reinvention. I will reinvent myself, my life. I'll wake up and be on some other shit just cause. Be like, we off that. We doing this now. I don't want to live here no more. I'm finna live over here. We getting in the car. We doing a road trip. We going somewhere. We don't know where we going. I remember one day I got in my car when I lived in Palm Beach and I just drove to the Keys. Had never been to the Florida Keys. Woke up, got on the turnpike, went to the Florida Keys. It was beautiful. Had an amazing day. Had the best key lime cookie I ever had. It was great. Now I can say I've been to the Keys. Just 4 hours in my car. But that is a summation of just who I am. And anytime that I try to live outside of that, and again, be more structured or be more stable or be more like the world tells me I'm supposed to be, or tries to prescribe for me to be or exist here in this world, that's when I'm miserable. That's when I'm having insomnia. That's when my gut is acting a fool. That's when my mind is racing. That's when I'm having anxiety. That's when I'm having a pain. The anxiety comes from trying not to be me. And that, I think, is my message for Black women and why we not sleeping. The call why you can't sleep and why your mind is not resting, because, sis, are you being fully who you supposed to be? And not supposed to be according to societal standards, but who you are. Are you showing up as you fully? Like you. The you when nobody watching and nobody's critiquing you and nobody's grading you and nobody's comparing you to this person, and you're not scrolling on IG comparing yourself and you're not playing mind games with yourself. That you, is she here? Has she shown up? Have you talked to her lately? Talk to her. See what she got to say. See what she's trying to tell you. And I can almost 100% guarantee you'll go to sleep after that. Your mind will rest and your body will rest when you show up as you. Hopefully this video made some sense. Hopefully you got something from it. If you did, go ahead and comment below what part resonated with you the most. I'm out. I'm about to edit this video together and get me some sleep. Until next time, you guys, thank you so much for tuning into this series of Get Free December. Hopefully this helps somebody get free and go to sleep. Peace out, y'all.